Hey guys, what is up? Eben here. So with the latest blue post, we now have confirmation on classic WoW itemization. It's probably not exactly the news you guys wanted to hear, but to be honest, I'm alright with how they're doing it. We still won't have Dire Maul loot in the game until Phase 2, and the items that were added later on, often referred to as the Nax items, they won't be seen in the game until later phases. Honestly, I personally have to pause for a second and just realize how lucky we are to have such a solid classic team working on our favorite game. They're honoring so many of our hopes that we had for classic. Just a few months ago, I know that I thought we were going to have Dire Maul at launch. There was only going to be 4 phases of content. We had really no idea about the PvP system, and I was scared that they were going to have sharding throughout the game. So I think overall we're in a pretty good place right now. With the classic team talking about itemization, we now know how to gear out our druid. Now in this video I'm only going to cover restoration gear. If you want to learn about tanking, I would definitely go subscribe to Skarm Tank. He knows way more about feral tanking than I do, and he also has great information regarding feral druids in PvE. If you're going to play balance in PvE, I really have no idea how to guide you except to say good luck. So instead of just going down a list of gear, I'm actually going to cover the dungeons you need to do to obtain these items. As some of the gear you can go ahead and start acquiring before level 60, and then other pieces you want to be decently geared before stepping into those dungeons. Before you step into any dungeon, you can actually pick up a few pieces from the auction house that can actually be very, very important. These are living shoulders and living leggings. Both of these are created by leather workers and are great pieces, and you won't replace them for a while, so it's a pretty good investment. Next, if you have a decent amount of gold, I would go for Hide of the Wild and Sash of Mercy. Even though these will be spendy items, they will stay with you for the majority of the game. Also, as battlegrounds are not in the game at this point, and PvP won't be a huge focus in the first phase, you really don't need to be rushing to buy an epic mount, so I would focus on picking up these key pieces of gear before you save for your mount. Having a 60% mount for the first few months of Classic really won't be a huge issue. At this point, I'm going to assume that you have quest screens and random drops that have intellect and spirit on them. Hopefully you were able to pick up a few of the pieces that we just covered from the auction house, but at this point, it's pretty safe to say that we can make our way to Blackrock Depths. So Blackrock Depths was once the city of the Dark Iron Dwarves. This volcanic labyrinth now serves as a seat of power for Ragnaros the Fire Lord. Ragnaros is attempting to create an army of unstoppable golems to help him conquer the whole of Blackrock Mountain. Blackrock Mountain is also known as BRD. BRD is the largest, by far, dungeon within Classic WoW. So, when going there, just make sure you are loaded up with mana potions, food and water, and any other necessities needed to complete such a long dungeon. The good thing about BRD is everyone needs it. Items, quests, attunements, and more. So groups are always going, and you don't have to worry about grinding quests and mobs to level, as you can always jump into a BRD group before level 60. For Resto Druid, Blackrock Depths has the best upgrades for you. You'll get a great weapon and offhand, as well as trinkets, gloves, and other pieces that you can take advantage of before you get your other pre-BiS. You'll probably run Blackrock Depths a lot, so don't worry about picking up items the first run. Just sit back, get comfy, and enjoy running one of my favorite dungeons over and over and over and over. So, after you grab everything you need for Blackrock Depths, and you've done it multiple times, probably a lot of lava runs as well, you're probably in your high 50s, maybe even 60 at this point. So now we can jump into Lower Blackrock Spire and Upper Blackrock Spire. So while Lower Blackrock Spire and Upper Blackrock Spire are often treated as separate instances, they are actually one in the same instance. So who will you be fighting within the Blackrock Spire? Well, the orcs of the Blackrock clan dominate most of the ruins of Blackrock Spire. They're divided up into various legions. These include the Scarshield Legion, the Bloodaxe Legion, and the Firebrand Legion. Also, there are some elite Blackhand Legion orcs residing in the Upper Blackrock Spire. These orcs also share their space with Spirestone Ogres, Smolder Thorn Trolls, You'll also find the area infested with spire spiders. Both upper and lower Blackrock Spire are both significantly shorter instances than Blackrock Depths. As a Resto Druid, my one big tip is every piece of gear that is not needed by anyone else, definitely try and roll on it. You'll find very many uses for random pieces of gear, and also look out for fire resistance pieces, as you'll need fire resistance later once you step into Molten Core. At this point, as a Resto Druid, you've tackled both Blackrock Depths and Blackrock Spire, so congratulations. Also, you've finished all your gear that you can obtain from Blackrock Mountain at this point. The fun thing about Druids is also at this point you probably have some great pieces for Feral and PvP as well. You know what they say, every weapon is a hunter weapon? Well, in that case, every piece of gear is for Druids then. With bags bursting full of blues, you're feeling pretty great. Well, now things are gonna get kinda creepy, because we're gonna head over to Stratholme and Skullmance. So within Stratholme and Skullmance, you won't have as many pieces that you need to look for Resto Druids, but keep your eyes peeled for some of the best PvP gear that you can get as a Druid. These are pieces like Songbird Blouse, Bone Ring Helm, and many others. Okay, so we're heading over to Skullmance. Skullmance is an academy for necromancers of the Scourge. It's located within Western Plaguelands, and it was once owned by the noble Barov family. The property fell into ruin after the Barov family fell to Kel'Thuzad's influence, and they donated the keep and its crypts to the Scourge. Then the cultists killed the Barovs and turned the property into a school for necromancy, run by Dark Master Gandling. So, basically Skullmance is the evil Hogwarts. So, like I said, Skullmance doesn't have the most gear for Resto Druids, but you can get a lot of good PvP pieces in here, and you can get some good Feral DPS gear in here as well. Now that Skullmance is completed, we're going to move over to Stratholme. Stratholme was once the second most populated city of the Kingdom of Lordaeron. However, since Prince Arthas attempted to purge the city by setting fire and running out its people, the undead have moved in. While the city still burns, undead, some scarlet guys, and other creepers still roam around doing nothing, just waiting for you to step foot inside. I personally never really enjoyed these undead-filled dungeons. However, Stratholme is much more tolerable than Skullmance, but that's just my opinion. So the final boss within this instance, Baron Riverdale, he is the one who's going to drop those famous bright blue robes that you see almost every single healer repping for the longest time in Classic. I hate the way they look, and sadly I'm going to be wearing them for a long time. Just like Skullmance, Stratholme has a lot of good pieces for Feral Druid, as well as a lot of pieces that will come in handy during PvP, so watch out for those items and make sure you roll if no one else in the group needs them. Lots and lots of dungeon runs later, guys, you now have your BiS healing gear. You can now go and tackle Molten Core, you can work on farming up a Feral gear set or a tank set, and you also can go out and do World PvP. Remember in Phase 2 though, new gear in Dire Maul. Okay guys, I hope this guide was entertaining and also informative. All the gear within this video can be found in the description as well. There's an amazing spreadsheet put together by Taladrill for Druids. It has tank, DPS, and healing gear, all based on the 1.12 patch. So with that being said, just make sure you take in mind that there's going to be Dire Maul gear listed, as well as things like Blackwing Lair, Molten Core, and other gear.